So the Diamondbacks just got eliminated from the playoffs yesterday. And I'm not happy about it. You want to know why? Because from the game that we watched yesterday, it showed me one thing that I guess I didn't know about baseball. That sports rivalries are dead. Unless you are the top of the top sports rivalries, such as Duke versus North Carolina, or Dodgers and Diamondbacks, even though they're not that big, Yankees and Red Sox, Yankees and Mets, your rivalry doesn't matter. Because the Mets and the Braves just played yesterday. Now, the fact that they had to play a doubleheader after every other game has ever been played, and the Diamondbacks had to rely their entire season on that moment is stupid. But that's beside the point. There was plenty of things that the Diamondbacks could have done to fix it. But currently, what makes me upset is the video that was shown after the game. Now, this video was recorded by SNN, which is a SNY, sorry, not SNN, a New York newsletter for sports, right? They filmed this video after the second game when the Mets lost. And in this video, it shows Mets players and Braves players celebrating the fact that they both made the playoffs. And call me an old head, I don't really give a fuck. This pissed me off so much because it showed me that they didn't give a shit. They didn't care about the fact that an entire other team, not in their division, was worried about this game. And that makes me upset because let's say the Diamondbacks have the chance to eliminate the Padres from the playoffs. You know, it's a doubleheader. There's another team that's praying to God that we can beat them. Let's say we win the first game, right? We're guaranteed in. If I have a chance to eliminate the Padres, the Giants, the Rockies, especially the fucking Dodgers, guess what I'm doing? If I was in the Diamondbacks players' shoes, I am absolutely fucking killing them. I am making sure that they know they have no fucking chance. And the reason this upsets me is because, let's say, later in October, the Mets and Braves, don't think this will happen, but let's say they make it to the NL Championship, right? And they're playing each other. If the Braves win, the Mets have to look back at that doubleheader and go, what if we tried the second game? What if we didn't throw out our AAA players? What if we decided to actually give a fuck? As they go home back to their New York apartments. Or if the Mets win, the Braves have to go, what if we didn't give up that run in the second half? In the first game, I mean. What will we do then? We would be in the World Series. Exactly. That's what you don't understand about this shit. That is complete BS, the fact that they just both were like, oh, yay, we both get to make the playoffs. Friendship, power of friendship, right? And it shows me that rivalries just aren't taken seriously anymore. Because I guarantee you there were some Mets fans and some Braves fans that were like, oh, I want to beat them both so they definitely don't make the playoffs. I guarantee you there's a bunch of people who are thinking that. Let's knock them out of the playoffs. Let's make sure we don't have to see them. Or let's crush their dreams because they're our in-division rivals, right? And the Mets and Braves just didn't care enough for that. As soon as the Mets won the second game, they took out Lindor. They left in Pete fucking Alonso, which is literally the worst fucking player this season. I hate that man on many levels for many different reasons because of this season, right? And it really upsets me to see the fact that they're just both, happy. It's like when you have three friends, right? And you see two of them having a bunch of fun and you're sitting there alone. You don't know what to do. You know that SpongeBob and Patrick meme where Squidward is sitting there in the corner of his window going, I wish I was them. As SpongeBob and Patrick go running along. That's what I feel like they just did. Except in this case, it'd be Mr. Krabs and Plankton playing together. And SpongeBob's looking out the fucking window. What the fuck was that? Just two teams going out there and just, If you win the first game, let us win the second game. Yay! No, that's not competitive baseball. Now, you may be like, Tyler, you're very angry. You know, your team got eliminated, and I understand you're angry. But at the same time, I have a right to be angry after that. That honestly, at basic levels, that should be considered colluding with each other. Because there's no way. You want to know what I compared this game to? I compared this game, remember a couple years back when the Chargers and Raiders were playing, and if they tied, they both got to make it into the playoffs? But if one of them won, the Steelers would make it into the playoffs? That was the exact situation we just saw. But in this case, they tied on purpose. You may be like, well, you can't prove that, Tyler. Yes, I absolutely fucking can. They threw a meatball subs out there, and no one gave a shit on offense. Little Acuna would go up there and do 3 straight swinging at the bats and then go run back to the dugout. Pete Alonso definitely didn't give a shit. And that makes me upset to hear all this talk of, oh, we're the most competitive sport, or we care about our rivalries. Luka Doncic and Devin Booker in a different sport, NBA, is a rivalry, but they're not allowed to get within 3 feet of each other. The Lakers and Celtics has been the biggest rivalry in the NBA for generations. But now it's just, we just play each other a couple times. It's always on prime time. That's it. There's nothing special about that game anymore. Because in every sport, again, unless you're one of the biggest rivalries, even sometimes if you are the biggest rivalries, there's no pure hatred or there's no pure energy to face that team and beat them. Now, I'd be crazy to blame all of it on the Mets and Braves. I blame it a lot on them, but it's not 100% their fault. So, let's talk about something else. The Diamondbacks. Oh boy, where do I begin? See, last season, the Diamondbacks did something that no one expected them to do. They went all the way to the national championships. They went all the way to the World Series. See, last year, they were not projected to do anything. Shout out Diamondbacks, by the way, for this giveaway. They weren't projected to do anything. Instead, with no expectations, though, they went 2-0 against the Brewers, 3-0 against the Dodgers, and 4-3 against the Phillies. Now, they did lose to the Rangers, who also didn't make the playoffs, which is crazy, in my opinion, that both teams from the World Series didn't make the playoffs. But it shows you that they were capable of something. They were capable of making the World Series. So this offseason, they had a bunch of money to spend. They had, I think it was $130 million to spend, right? And their first move was re-signing Loris Gurriel, who was a great player for us last year and is young, can do good things in the outfield, is a very power hitter, and is one of our only left-handed hitters, right? So they re-signed him, right, for a lot of money. I think it was 4 years, $110 million, something like that, right? It's a lot of money. And the Diamondbacks aren't known for spending a bunch of money. You know, their owner's not cheap as, Michael Bidwell and their fucking problems, or Robert Sarver and their fucking problems. But they're not, if we can save a little bit of money here and here, we're not going to spend unnecessary money, right? And then, so I'm expecting them to do maybe 1 or 2 things. They signed Jock Peterson for a pretty cheap deal, and that was all right. And then they signed Erod, pitcher from the Mariners, I'm pretty sure, is where he was last year. And I was ready. I was like, oh my gosh, this dude's good. He had something like a 2.7 ERA last year. He was great for them. He's a good pitcher. He's going to be our third pitcher. That's great. And then we traded for Eugenio Suarez, who's a very power-heavy hitter from third baseman who's played great defense. So we're ready, right? We got everything. And I remember going into spring training, I was so hyped. I was like, we're ready. We can do this. We're going to go back to the World Series and this time win it, right? And then we signed Jordan Montgomery. Probably the best pitcher out there. We signed him 4 days after spring training. And I remember losing my damn mind. I was like, oh my God. Our pitching core is Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Erod, Jordan Montgomery. 3 of those people are aces, and Erod is a great second pitcher. And we have Pafat, who just came off one of the best playoff performances ever. And we got Tommy Henry coming back. And we got Paul Sewald in the bullpen. Justin Martinez, who just came up, right? We're stacked. We're ready, right? Joe Mantiply, hopefully he can go back to all-star form. Our offense is good. Our pitching is good. Our defense is good. And I remember sitting there as the first week went by. Lourdes Gurriel looked like an MVP candidate. He had like 5 home runs and like 12 RBIs in the first week. And I was like, oh, we're good. And then everyone got injured. Everyone. It was ridiculous. You think of a player, he got injured. They had Alec Thomas out. Geraldo Perdomo out. Who else? Zach Gallen out. Merrill Kelly out. Erod was out for like the entire start of the season. Jordan Montgomery was out because he couldn't play for a little bit. Paul Sewald out. It was ridiculous. Everyone was injured. So we're sitting there like 2 months into the season, and we're like 15 games under 500, and we're like, whoa, this is not what's supposed to happen, right? But we do eventually start to get everyone back. And the one constant through the entire season so far was Ketel Marte is awesome. Ketel Marte was the only player that was playing good the entire season, right? Because in the beginning of the season, Corbin Carroll was in a sophomore slump. He was fucking terrible. Eugenio Suarez went from being one of the best power-hitting third basemen to literally the worst, statistically and actually the worst. It was ridiculous. It was like, on top of being injured, everyone can't hit except for Ketel. And we just suck. Jock Peterson and Ketel were our main offense. And Jake McCarthy, who was going crazy for a little bit. That was it. Our starting pitching's terrible. And I remember sitting there, I was like, we might not make the playoffs. But then we finally started getting a little bit of momentum. And I remember sitting there as I saw Paul Sewald, he's pitching great, until he wasn't. Because Paul decided random, like, middle of June, July, just to go not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 straight games of blown saves. We traded a lot of prospects for you, Paul. And you just fucking stunk it up for an entire month. So we took him out of the closing spot. And I was like, whoa, that's not something I had on my bingo card. And we put in Justin Martinez. And for a good, solid 4 or 5 straight times, he was great. He was a great closer. And then he stunk it up for like 3 straight times. So we put in someone else. And then our constant problem was our pitching this year. Our offense was the best in the league at the end of the season. And our pitching wasn't. It was like middle of the pack. And when I say middle of the pack, that's because we'll have like a game where they give up no runs, and then the next game they'll give up 10. And it's like you have a 5 ERA because you're giving up 10 runs every other game. And remember how I said Jordan Montgomery, the best pitching player in free agency this offseason? Remember how I was so excited when we signed him? I don't know why I was excited, because he fucking sucked. He was awful. He might have been the worst pitcher. Fun fact, the Diamondbacks a couple years ago signed Madison Bumgarner former World Series pitcher, right? And we were ecstatic. Jordan Montgomery had worse numbers than Madison Bumgarner did as a Diamondback. What? Like, it was like anything that we signed this offseason was doing terrible except for Jock Peterson. So we get to the All-Star break, and I remember we got Ketel and Zach Gallen as our All-Stars, and I remember sitting there, and I was like, oh, Christian Walker will be an All-Star because he's also doing great. Fucking Pete Alonso was an All-Star. Pete fucking Alonso. But Francisco Lindor, who's been in MVP conversations this entire season, wasn't. What? What sense does that make? Goes back to the earlier in the video when I said I fucking hate Pete Alonso for multiple reasons. This is a multiple reason. Right? Like, and then we get to trade deadline and we're like bubbling around 500. We're not great. We're not terrible, right? And I remember sitting there as we traded for AJ Puck to come into our bullpen, hopefully save it. Dylan Floro come in and save that as well. And Josh Bell for basically nothing. Because Christian Walker got injured a little bit. Gabriel Moreno was in and out of the lineup the entire season. Corbin Carroll at this point started to pick it up, I think, a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. We sent Alec Thomas back down because he's been terrible this entire season. Jake McCarthy starting to come back down to earth a little bit. Ketel Marte is still crushing it. And I was sitting there saying DFA, Erod, Jordan Montgomery, Paul Sewald, Eugenio Suarez. I was saying DFA that man every single game. Anytime he would come up to bat, I was like, oh, that's an out. Oh, that's a strikeout. You might as well just close your eyes when you pitch it. He's not hitting it, right? And it was sad to watch this game. And then I remember sitting there, and every time that Eugenio Suarez would come up to bat, I'll be like, it's an out, and then he'd start hitting home runs. And I was like, what the fuck? You have 5 home runs this entire start of the season, and now you have like 5 in the last 5 games. Eugenio Suarez finished with 30 home runs, despite starting basically the first half of the season with 5. 30 home runs, 100 RBIs. Eugenio Suarez picked it up. Corbin Carroll picked up his game. They were on fire. Jake McCarthy came back down to earth, right? Everyone's healthy finally. We have everyone available now. And I remember I went to a game, the game where I got this ring, this replica ring, right? And I remember I went to that game because I wanted that ring. And I went to that game. Ketel Marte hits a home run. We're up 1-0 in the second against the Phillies. We dislike the Phillies because of how they didn't think we deserved to make it to the World Series despite beating them last year, right? And I remember sitting there as everyone's cheering and everyone's going crazy. And then the next inning, Ketel Marte is standing there at second. And this man, Garrett Stubbs, who was going to make it to second no matter what he did, slid hand first at the worst angle you possibly could to go hand first into a base. Goes over the bag, straight into Ketel Marte's knee. Garrett Stubbs, I hope and pray that you do not get a job next year. Because Ketel was having an MVP season, and you ruined it. We booed the living shit out of that man. Anytime you would be near the ball, booed him. And he deserved it. You can go look at my shorts videos that I uploaded when I went to that game, actually. And it shows Jake McCarthy hitting a second home run and Corbin Carroll hitting a home run. And I was so glad that we killed them that game. My dad the entire time was sitting there like anytime Garrett Stubbs come up, drill him in the back. Like whoever was up, just throw an absolute haymaker down on his back, right? They didn't do that because they do have respect. And I respect the fact that they have sportsmanship. But it was really disappointing to see because with Ketel out, someone had to step up. And I'll give you a secret. No one did. No one stepped up. No one stepped up. Literally not a single person stepped up. Yeah, Corbin Carroll's hitting good. Eugenio Suarez hitting good. But here's the thing. No one could take away what Ketel was bringing, which was absolute fear in every pitcher. Because Eugenio Suarez would hit a home run, yeah, but he would go 1 for 4. Corbin Carroll, same thing. Hit a home run every game, but go 1 for 4. Ketel Marte would get on base every single game at least twice. And it was just upsetting to see because that was like the turning point of our season. Because we were going into September now, right? We have a lot of games, right? And I remember at September 1st, we had a 90% chance to make the playoffs. And we were up 4 games on the Mets, and I think it was like 3 on the Braves, right? And I'm sitting there watching it. I'm like, oh, there's no way we don't make the playoffs. I'm preparing myself for a playoff run, right? And then we decided to have the worst month of baseball I think we ever possibly could. Our pitching sucked. Our starting pitching was awful. And our hitting disappeared off the face of the fucking earth. Christian Walker came back from his injury and was not the same player. Ketel Marte, he was the same player because he's MVP. Corbin Carroll stopped hitting home runs. Eugenio Suarez would hit one every once in a while. Gabriela Moreno would just stop. Gabriel? I don't know what I'm doing. And it was just disappointing. Josh Bell, who we got at the trade deadline, didn't really help us. Once after the first week, he didn't really help us. We DFA'd Dylan Floro. We just traded a bunch of people for him, and we DFA'd him within the first month. Paul Sewald's fallen off a cliff. Justin Martinez is too young to be the closer. AJ Puck is our best option, but we keep putting in Scott McGuff for some fucking reason. And it was terrible. Jordan Montgomery is nowhere to be found ever again. And we couldn't do anything. And I remember sitting there as I'm watching the Diamondbacks play the Brewers. And we go up 8-0. I was like, okay, finally, here's the game where we put our foot down and make it in. And we lost 10-8. And that was the moment I realized that we might not make the playoffs. And then this last series, we had to play the Padres. If we win 2 of the games, we're basically guaranteed in. And we couldn't beat their AAA players. The players they just brought up for this game because they won the first game of the series to clinch their playoff spot. And the second game, they brought up a bunch of AAA players, and we couldn't even beat them. So now we had to win the third game, and we did. We won 11-2. But now we had to put our faith in that doubleheader I talked about earlier. And that wasn't smart. So some people may view this as a failure, myself included. Because, yeah, we increased our record and the NL was just really good this year. I don't give a fuck. We should have made it in. We had a 90% chance at September 1st. A month later, we are out of the playoffs. That's not okay. That's not okay. I don't care who the fuck you think you are. That's not okay. And it's upsetting as a Diamondbacks fan, but as an Arizona sports fan, it actually gives me a little hope because Arizona sports fans have a saying, we are only allowed to have one nice thing at a time. If you look back at all our history, when the Suns were in the finals, Diamondbacks and Cardinals were awful. When the Cardinals were doing good, Suns and Diamondbacks were terrible, right? And you may be like, well, Tyler, Diamondbacks made the playoffs. Diamondbacks made the World Series, and Suns made the playoffs last year. Suns got swept in 4. We were supposed to make it to the Western Conference Finals at least with our team, and we got swept in 4 in the first round. So, that's a failure. But knowing that the Diamondbacks missed the playoffs and seeing that the Cardinals suck again, it gives me hope that the Suns can hopefully be our new shiny toy for the season. I don't want to jinx ourselves because I also don't know if we'll make we could not so just not make the playoffs because we are a very injury prone team. But hopefully they are the new shiny toy. And with that, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm disappointed in how the Diamondbacks season ended. I'm disappointed in the fact that the Braves and Mets, frankly, just didn't look like they care. But the Suns season does start in 6 days. I will be doing preseason coverage. I'm not going to, maybe even live, probably not though, but I will be doing videos pretty regularly about the Suns because I am way more passionate about the Suns than anything about the Diamondbacks. And that's about it. So let's end off the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, anything to help the channel grow. Uploading 2 videos in back-to-back days is something that I haven't done since literally the start of my channel. So I'm hoping I could do that with a little more free time now. School's out, so hoping I'm trying to get more videos out. Hell, I might even post one later today, another one. But I really am thankful for you guys. Thank you for watching this video. And peace out, all you.